I was reborn back to the age of 15. My eldest sister, married into the marquis's household, was dying. On her deathbed, she begged the marquis to take me as a secondary wife, to be a stepmother to her child. Yet barely 3 months after her death, the marquis sought to marry my legitimate younger sister. On her wedding day, my younger sister looked at me with utter disdain and arrogance. I knew it, my younger sister had reincarnated too. In our past life, she married a poor scholar, always envying my status as the marquis's legitimate wife, enjoying all the splendor and wealth. But she never knew the marquis's mansion was a den of wolves, where everyone was a ruthless, twisted monster. And that poor scholar she married in our past life? He ended up becoming the chief minister. I died with unclosed eyes. All because I witnessed the marquis and his stepmother's sordid affair. That day, in the marquis's ancestral hall, I saw 2 pale bodies entwined and screamed in horror. The next second, my shrieks were abruptly silenced. The marquis plunged his sword into my chest. In my dying moments, I saw his stepmother's face splattered with blood as she feigned panic and clung to his embrace. My body was disposed of without a trace by the household servants. Soon after, the marquis's mansion announced that the marquise had vanished, offering a reward of 10,000 taels of gold for her return. The news spread, and the entire capital searched for my whereabouts. Yet at this very moment, my spirit hovers above the marquis's residence, coldly observing it all. 5 years ago, my eldest sister, who had married into the marquis's household, passed away from illness. On her deathbed, she implored the marquis to take her younger half-sister, me, as his second wife. With tears in his eyes, the marquis agreed to her request. During my 5 years in the marquis's household, he treated me with extreme coldness. He only put on a show in front of outsiders to preserve the dignity of the marquis. I had believed they were deeply devoted to each other, that the marquis was solely mourning my elder sister. But only after my death did I discover the man beside me was a wolf in sheep's clothing. No, it wasn't just him. The entire marquis's residence was a den of wolves and tigers. In my spirit form, I uncovered many of the marquis's secrets. For instance, the marquis and his stepmother had been adulterous for over a decade, and together they murdered the old marquis. For instance, the marquis's 3 brothers all harbored a sadistic delight in torturing and killing women. The dry well in the inner courtyard was piled high with bleached bones. For instance, the young heir of the marquis's household, though still a child, was already insatiable in his lust, having played to death several young boys and girls. The marquis's household finally announced my death. My funeral was grand, with invitations extended to every noble and imperial relative in the capital. At the ceremony, the marquis and his stepmother wept rivers of tears. Nearly fainting, everyone praised their profound affection for me. But I just wanted to vomit. My spirit left the funeral hall and drifted toward the side quarters. There, I happened upon my birth mother and birth sister. My birth mother passed away early, and I was raised by my stepmother, who held me close. She was kind-hearted, treating me no differently than her own daughter. Though my stepsister was a bit spoiled, she never harbored ill will. Seeing my family, tears welled up instantly. I lunged forward, wanting to embrace them and pour out my grievances. But my spirit body merely passed right through them, leaving no trace. Oh, right. I was dead. Just then, my legitimate sister spoke up. Mother, now that second sister is dead, it should be my turn to remarry into the marquis's household. What nonsense! My stepmother spat at her. The young master may be of modest means, but in every other way, he is first-rate. You think only of remarrying. Have you no shame? Mother, my legitimate sister protested. I should have been the one married to the marquis's household all along. I'm the one worthy of being the marquis's wife. Second sister is just a concubine's daughter, she's not worthy. I never imagined my elder sister viewed me so coldly behind my back. My heart instantly turned icy. But what followed, my mother's words, shocked me even more. What do you know? She pinched her daughter hard. She was married to the marquis's household specifically to watch over the heir. Your eldest sister poisoned her with sterilizing herbs back then, she'll never bear children. When her lowly mother conceived a boy, she actually dared to try giving birth. I had Mother Lou administer the poison, both mother and child perished. That wretched pair deserved their fate. Without children, she's just a grasshopper in our palms, nowhere to jump. My sister swayed her arms and whined. Mother, I don't care. I'm marrying into the marquis's household. The Lou family is dirt poor, how could they compare to the marquis's boundless wealth? I can still look after the young master after I marry. Second sister is still a stepsister. I'm mother's own flesh and blood. Hearing this, my stepmother softened her tone. We'll need to discuss this with your father. Mother and daughter walked away together. Left alone, I stood rooted to the spot. Those words still ringing deafeningly in my ears. Spring came and went. Autumn followed. Before I knew it, I had been confined within the marquis's residence for 10 long years. 8 years prior, my legitimate younger sister had successfully divorced her husband and clamored to marry into the marquis's household as the principal wife. Alas! Just after the betrothal, a sudden illness claimed her life. I knew it was the marquis, weary of her persistence, who had poisoned her outright. After her death, the marquis claimed he was cursed to bring misfortune to his wives and vowed never to remarry. The entire capital praised his noble virtue. But I knew the truth, once the inconvenient obstacle was gone. The marquis and his stepmother grew ever bolder. Not only did they engage in illicit affairs, but they also brought in groups of men and women to commit lewd acts in broad daylight. If anyone died, they would toss the remains into the dry well in the back courtyard. Day after day, the white bones piled up layer upon layer in that dry well. Until one day, 10 years later, a group of soldiers stormed into the marquis's residence. At the young commander's command, all the mansion's inhabitants were bound hand and foot, forced to kneel before the ancestral hall. Your Excellency, the young chief minister murmured, repeating the numbers to himself. The officers report 103 skeletal remains were unearthed from the dry well in the rear courtyard, both male and female. The youngest appears to be no more than 11 or 12. A female corpse. 103. 11 or 12. The young chief minister silently repeated these two numbers twice. He turned and kicked the marquis hard, sending him crashing to the ground. Covered in grime, the marquis still shouted with feigned ferocity. Lu Tongshu, my Yan family ancestors were founding heroes of the empire. I possess an iron-sealed letter of pardon. Who do you think you are, daring to arrest people in my marquis's residence? Iron-sealed pardon? Founding heroes? Lu Tongshu laughed bitterly in rage. His Majesty knows full well the deeds of this marquisate. He sent me to ask you, when committing these beastly acts, did you remember your ancestors' glorious achievements? Did you remember that as imperial kin, you should be striving for the welfare of the common people? Even at death's door, you show no remorse. I see this marquisate's century-old legacy is worthless. With that, Lu Tongshu raised a torch and hurled it directly into the ancestral hall. Amidst the wails of the marquisate's retainers, the ancient, decaying hall was swiftly engulfed in flames. Amidst the raging flames, I felt my consciousness slowly fade. When I awoke again, my eldest sister, who had passed away years ago, sat before me. Her face was pale and gaunt, bearing the look of one in the final stages of illness. Yet her eyes shone brightly. Wanner, she said, your eldest sister is about to die. After I pass away, would you be willing to marry the marquis and become the new mistress of this estate? I remember that day vividly, even in my previous life. That day, After hearing my elder sister's words, I agreed immediately. For a concubine's daughter like me, becoming the marquis's second wife was already the best possible marriage. It felt like a pie had fallen from the sky, leaving me dizzy and disoriented. But I was young and ignorant then, unaware that every gift comes with a price. My thoughts raced. And in the next moment, my eyes welled with tears. Eldest sister, don't speak such despairing words. I clasped her hand. Tomorrow I'll go to Qingshu Temple to burn incense and pray. Your health will surely improve. My elder sister avoided my gaze. Even if she was determined to push me into an abyss, she couldn't bear to face my kindness. I know my own condition. I'm merely enduring the days. She paused, then slowly clasped my hand. My death matters little, but the bond between the Gu family and the marquis's household must not be severed. Father and the old marquis were lifelong confidants. Your eldest brother's career also needs the marquis's backing. After marrying into the marquis's household, you'll be the marquis. You'll be able to support our family more. My eldest sister listed many advantages of my marrying the marquis. But what she never mentioned was, with a stepmother like me easily manipulated and bound by blood, the young master would be assured of a lifetime of security. The heir is the only son of my eldest sister and the marquis. Though barely 12 or 13, he already displays the marquis's hereditary nature. Any female servant or page in the house who catches his eye is swiftly lured into his bedchamber, where they spend their days in debauchery. My eldest sister had long known of this. Yet her indulgence toward her children meant she never imposed strict discipline. But if she were to die, and the marquis's household brought in a shrewd new wife, the young master's position would surely be lost. These were all things I only came to understand after my death in my previous life. When parents love their children, they plan for their long-term future. As for everyone else, they are merely stepping stones for maternal love. I sneered inwardly. My mind raced to devise a refusal. Just then, the door burst open. My legitimate sister, clad in crimson, rushed in breathlessly. Seeing my eldest sister and me clasped hand in hand, she gritted her teeth and shoved me aside. Eldest sister. She seized her wrist urgently. I will marry. After you die, I'll marry into the marquis's household. Second sister is merely a concubine's daughter. How could she possibly be fit to be the marquis's legitimate wife? This scenario never unfolded in my previous life. My legitimate younger sister was dismissed by the marquis's maidservant and never appeared. Under my eldest sister's gentle persuasion, I readily agreed. Yet the legitimate younger sister before me now was dusty and sweaty. Could it be? My legitimate sister had also been reborn? I sat nearby, carefully observing her every move. She gripped my eldest sister's wrist, shaking it as she pleaded for her to change her mind and let me marry into the marquis's household instead. That's right. My legitimate sister had died before marrying into the marquis's household in her previous life. She had no idea the marquis's residence was a den of wolves. Watching my legitimate sister's actions, my eldest sister's face turned pale and ashen. She could be ruthless toward me, her half-sister. But my legitimate sister was her own flesh and blood, born of the same mother. How could she bear to let her leap into the fire? Do you think being the marquis's wife is so easy? The eldest sister rebuked. The marquis's household has strict rules. You've always been arrogant and domineering. How could you possibly survive in that vast, secluded compound? If the second sister can do it, why can't I? The legitimate sister shrieked, cutting off her eldest sister. Her eyes widened, the whites showing prominently, making her look especially defiant and unreasonable. Have you lost your mind, eldest sister? I'm your own flesh and blood. You're just biased. The words struck like lightning, turning the eldest sister's face ashen. Her hand clenched the table corner, her blood surging violently. In the next instant, she coughed up a mouthful of blood. Madam! Quick! Fetch the imperial physician. The maids in the room rushed forward in panic. Some helping the elder sister steady her breathing. Others fetching medicine. The legitimate younger sister, the instigator of this, stood to the side, utterly flustered. Only after returning home did I understand why the legitimate younger sister had been so frantic. Father had returned from our ancestral home, bringing a young man with him in the carriage. The youth appeared to be 16 or 17, with handsome features and a slender build. He wore the simplest blue robe, yet his gaze was deep and piercing, even though he was much younger. I recognized him instantly. He was none other than the chief minister who had set fire to the marquis's ancestral hall. Lu Tongshu. In my previous life, even within the marquis's mansion, I had heard many tales about him. They said Lu Tongshu had passed the imperial examinations as a top scholar at a young age, earning the emperor's favor and rising rapidly through the ranks. They said Lu Tongshu governed with integrity, achieved remarkable accomplishments, and won the people's hearts. They said Lu Tongshu defied the powerful, dared to speak truth to power, yet remained slippery and adept at navigating both sides. Lu Tongshu was the husband of my elder sister in her previous life. My father had two close friends in his youth. One was the late patriarch of the marquis's household. The other was Lu Tongshu's father. In their youth, the three traveled the land together, forging a deep bond of friendship. Amid laughter and conversation, they even pledged that their children would be betrothed to one another. Yet when the younger generation came of age, only the Gu family had a daughter. Thus, 13 years ago, the eldest sister married into the marquis's household. Meanwhile, the Lu couple had long since retired to the countryside, their whereabouts unknown. It wasn't until father returned to his hometown this time and made numerous inquiries that he discovered the Lu couple had long since passed away. Only their sole son, Lu Tongshu, remained, a young man who had already passed the provincial examinations. Remembering their old friendship and admiring Lu Tongshu's talent, father brought him back to the capital. His intentions were twofold: to prepare Lu Tongshu for the imperial examinations and to fulfill the marriage agreement of old. But I won't marry, my legitimate sister wailed and protested. Eldest sister is about to die. I could have taken her place to marry into the marquis's household and become the marquis's wife. I refuse to marry some penniless scholar. Nonsense. Father glared, his beard bristling. Your eldest sister wanted your second sister to marry in her stead. What business is this of yours? Hearing this, the legitimate daughter threw an even fiercer tantrum. Why should second sister get to marry into the marquis's household while I'm stuck with some penniless scholar? I'm the Gu family's legitimate daughter. I won't have it. I'm marrying into the marquis's household. Father grew desperate, raising his hand to strike her, only to be restrained by his legitimate wife. Her tantrum and rolling about on the floor completely ignored Lu Tongshu standing nearby. The youth stood in the shadows of the corner, eyes lowered. In my previous life, I had little interaction with him. After the betrothal to the marquis's household was arranged, I secluded myself in the courtyard, preparing quietly for the marriage. I'd only heard rumors that my elder sister was deeply unhappy with her match, crying and throwing tantrums daily. In the end, unable to sway father, she had tearfully married him. Gazing at Lu Tongshu's slender figure, I suddenly recalled him standing before the marquis's ancestral hall, flames roaring behind him. That fire consumed the marquis's household, its blazing prosperity and splendid splendor. It also forged my own rebirth. Lu Tongshu was destined to become the chief minister and the very man who had destroyed the marquis's estate. If I sought vengeance, aligning myself with him would surely be the simplest path. Never mind. I will marry him, I murmured softly. My voice was quiet, yet it instantly drew the gaze of everyone present. What? My elder sister stared in disbelief. I said, I will marry him. I met the gaze of my elder sister, my father, my stepmother, and Lu Tongshu. The youth's dark eyes were filled with shock. After my eldest sister passes away, my third sister will marry into the marquis's household and become the marquis's second wife. I said, I will marry brother Lu, fulfilling the marriage agreement between the Lu and Gu families. Hearing my words, my legitimate sister seemed taken aback. In her mind, no one would ever turn down the immense wealth and prestige of the marquis's household. But soon, she lifted her chin haughtily. After all, she was stubborn and domineering, while I had always yielded to her in every way. To her, this marriage to the marquis's household was like a bracelet or a pair of earrings. If she wanted it, I had to give it to her. Father and mother, however, showed hesitation. After all, it was eldest sister who had specifically requested my marriage to the marquis's household. Yet over the following days, as younger sister persistently pestered them, their stance softened. For father, the crucial matter was honoring the betrothal agreement made years ago. Which daughter married whom was of lesser importance. Moreover, eldest sister had not informed mother of the marquis's household's true circumstances. For my stepmother, she'd always believed family wealth should stay within the family, and she'd harbored some resentment toward my eldest sister for choosing me. With their consent secured, the final obstacle was my eldest sister. But within days, news arrived from the marquis's residence that my eldest sister had fallen gravely ill. In my previous life, after the engagement to the marquis's household was sealed, the eldest sister stubbornly held on for a month before passing away. During that month, she poured her heart and soul into paving the way for the heir and clearing obstacles. This included slipping me a bowl of sterilizing medicine. But in this life, the eldest sister was driven to coughing up blood by her legitimate younger sister's provocation. And now she was clearly nearing her end. All those scheming plans remained unfulfilled. When we arrived at the marquis's residence, my eldest sister lay pale and ashen on the bed. The heir knelt beside her, weeping bitterly. The marquis sat at the bedside, wiping tears from his eyes. Yet his gaze held no trace of genuine sorrow. Fearing my hatred might be seen, I quickly lowered my head. Marquis, my eldest sister raised her trembling hand. We were betrothed in youth, married for many years. You know all the hardship and endurance I've endured these years. Before I die, I ask only one thing of you, take my second sister as your new wife. She shares blood with Linner and will surely protect him. The marquis hastily grasped her hand, rest assured. I shall grant your every wish. Only then did the eldest sister relax. Her final wish fulfilled. Her complexion grew slightly rosier, like a last burst of vitality. Everyone, leave, she said. I wish to speak privately with my second sister. Once all had exited the room, the eldest sister beckoned me over. Second sister, she began. I know you have a kind heart. The crown prince is your own flesh and blood nephew. You must protect him. Never let anyone bully him. Her voice was faint, yet her tone was earnest and resolute. This earnest, resolute maternal love, in my past life, it had just as earnestly and resolutely pushed me into an abyss. I looked at her, a strange, faint smile curling my lips. Bully him? Bully who? Eldest sister. Surely the him you speak of isn't your son, the one who stuffed a maid and a stray cat into a sack at age 10. Then beat them with a wooden stick until the cat tore the maid to pieces alive? The world suddenly fell silent. Big sister snapped her head up, eyes wide with disbelief. You. How do you know? You. She tried to push herself up, but her strength failed her. All she could do was gasp for breath. I smiled. I know even more. I murmured softly. I know the marquis and his stepmother committed adultery, poisoning the old marquis to death. I know the entire marquis household are perverts, raping men and women alike, with a well in the backyard filled to the brim with bleached bones. I also know you wanted me to marry into this family. then drugged me with sterilization medicine, forcing me to depend on the crown prince for the rest of my life. Big sister. You really have a knack for scheming. My elder sister lay on the bed, staring at me. The disbelief in her eyes had turned to terror. Guess how I know all this? I lowered my head, leaning close to whisper in her ear. In my past life, I married into the marquis' household under your schemes. And in the end, I died with my eyes wide open. You think marrying me over here will bring the young master a good end? Let me tell you, 10 years after my death, the marquisate was stripped of its title and deeds. The entire household was executed. Hearing this, my elder sister shook her head in terror. No. No. You can't. Save him. Save Linner. Save. Her voice cut off abruptly. She lay on the bed, eyes wide, lifeless. Her pale, blue-white eyeballs bulging and bursting. She died with unclosed eyes. Just like me in my past life. My eldest sister's funeral was grand. Imperial relatives, nobles, and dignitaries from across the capital were invited. At the ceremony, the marquis and his stepmother wept uncontrollably, nearly fainting. Everyone inwardly marveled at their profound love for my sister. In a corner of the funeral hall, father and the legitimate mother pulled the marquis aside, informing him that third sister was prepared to marry into the marquis' household. The marquis's face clouded with reluctance, but the late lady's dying wish was for me to seek second sister's hand. His words trailed off as the legitimate daughter approached, casting him a bashful glance. Her mourning robes were laced so tightly they accentuated her slender waist. Her eyes crinkled playfully, radiating allure. Kneeling far away, my body stiffened, my face numb. The marquis immediately agreed. In my past life, he loathed wooden types like me most, never even entering my chamber on our wedding night. But a captivating beauty like his legitimate sister? She was precisely his favorite type. As for my eldest sister's dying wish, let it be carried away by the wind. 3 months after my sister's death, the marquis came to propose. With great fanfare, he married my legitimate younger sister. On her wedding day, she looked at me with utter disdain and arrogance. In her heart, she believed she had finally reclaimed everything that rightfully belonged to her in this life. And for that mindset, I was genuinely grateful. My marriage to Lu Tongshu was also set in motion. Only, by comparison, it would be far more modest. The entire Gu household knew of my elder sister's plan to marry me off to the marquis' estate. I paid no heed to the servants' gossip within the manor. But someone did. At noon, Lu Tongshu came to see me. Second Miss Gu. He said, his gaze deep and intense. Are you truly willing to abandon the marriage to the marquis' household and marry me? A penniless scholar? 15 years later, he would become the decisive and ruthless chief minister who set fire to the marquis' ancestral hall. But now, he was still a young man, prone to self-doubt and insecurity. All the world's dealings, after all, revolve around power and status. Yet I abandoned power and status within my grasp, along with unimaginable wealth, to choose him. This baffled Lu Tongshu beyond comprehension. Rest assured, Brother Lu, I smiled. The marquis' household is like honey to third sister. But to me, it is arsenic. My words were so decisive they left Lu Tongshu speechless. After a long moment, he lowered his gaze and smiled softly. Gu Wan. Lu Tongshu gazed into my eyes and vowed, this life, I shall never betray you. 2 years after Lu Tongshu and I were married, the imperial examinations arrived. Lu Tongshu triumphed in the palace examination, securing the top rank as Zhuangyuan. In the Golden Hall, the emperor, struck by his youthful handsomeness and recalling several princesses of comparable age, entertained thoughts of arranging a marriage for him. Lu Tongshu refused outright. Your Majesty, this servant has already taken a wife. My wife is the daughter of Minister Gu of the Ministry of Rights. She is gentle and virtuous, and we share a harmonious and respectful marriage. I have long vowed never to betray her in this lifetime. The emperor abandoned his matchmaking plans, yet marveled at Lu Tongshu's devotion, bestowing upon him abundant treasures of gold and silver. News spread throughout the capital, and all young ladies in their chambers marveled at the top scholar's unwavering love. His legitimate younger sister also heard these rumors. At the Duke's mansion banquet, upon seeing me, she spoke with a sharp tone. Second sister has managed the household for Minister Lu these past 2 years. She certainly looks rather haggard. Fortunately, now that Minister Lu has risen to such prominence, he will surely take several concubines in time to ease second sister's burdens. Before I could respond, the third princess, seated nearby, objected. Father the Emperor himself praised Lu Tongshu for his deep loyalty and righteousness, calling him a model husband. How is it that from your mouth, Lu Honshu sounds like a heartless, faithless scoundrel? Madam Ho, if you have the leisure to meddle in others' affairs, perhaps you should focus on your own. My elder sister's expression darkened. She gritted her teeth but said nothing more. Observing her look, I sensed she knew something more. And rightly so. Unlike my previous life, where I was invisible in the marquis's household, in this life, my elder sister and the marquis had once shared the sweetness of newlywed days. As his bedmate, she couldn't be unaware of his various actions. But this was all she had sought out herself. No matter how bitter or exhausting it became, she had to endure it. After the banquet, several ladies and I walked hand in hand out of the Duke's residence, only to find Lu Tongshu already waiting under the eaves. Amidst the ladies' teasing remarks, my face flushed as Lu Tongshu pulled me into the carriage. I returned home early today, so I came to fetch you. Lu Tongshu handed me a food box. Opening it, I found my favorite chestnut cakes inside. Watching me take one and pop it into my mouth, Lu Tongshu smiled. But soon, a shadow of worry crossed his face. Wan. I must leave the capital, Lu Tongshu murmured. The emperor has dispatched me to inspect the salt trade in Lianghuai. This journey holds many perils. I'll go with you. I clasped his hand. Wherever you are, I will be there. Lu Tongshu was appointed as salt inspector, traveling alongside the second prince to oversee the salt trade in Lianghuai. The second prince was a few months younger than Lu Tongshu. Throughout the journey, he addressed me affectionately as sister-in-law, his tone warm and familiar. Upon reaching their destination, the two swiftly commenced their investigation into the salt tax system. I remained at the Lu residence, spending my days receiving visits from local officials and their families. Yet even in my secluded life, I heard whispers of Lu Tongshu's actions. Upon arriving in the two Huais, the second prince and Lu Tanshu targeted the local elite and influential families directly, achieving immediate success. Through their thunderous crackdown, numerous officials were brought down and imprisoned. Yet precisely because of this, the two became the focus of widespread hostility. Though Lu Tanshu constantly reassured me not to fear, I still felt some anxiety. In my previous life, though I resided within the marquis's mansion, I had heard tales of the brutal struggle for the throne. The current court situation is such that the first prince, being the crown prince and the son of the empress, has the backing of meritorious nobles. Yet his extravagant and reckless behavior makes him unpopular among the upright officials. The second prince, gifted with brilliance and a heart for the people, has developed his own power base despite his mother's humble origins. In my previous life, it was ultimately he who ascended the throne. Seeing Lu Tongshu's close relationship with the second prince, it seemed he had aligned himself with the second prince early on. These thoughts brought me some measure of comfort. Until one night, Lu Tongshu did not return home. Early the next morning, Lu Manor was surrounded by imperial troops. The officers declared that Lu Tongshu had colluded with foreign tribes, committed treason, and had already fled. Lu Tongshu, a traitor? I refused to believe it. But the magistrate's office produced letters proving Lu Tongshu's secret correspondence with foreign powers, backed by accompanying officials as witnesses. The evidence was irrefutable. The Lu residence remained under siege for 3 days, leaving me so anxious my mouth was filled with sores. The second prince sent word discreetly, urging me to stay calm. He said he had dispatched men to track Lu Tongshu's whereabouts and would inform me immediately if there were any developments. Reading this, my heart eased slightly. But having learned from my past life, I could no longer be that submissive Guwan. For 5 years of marriage, Lu Tongshu had protected me, though I married him initially for both advantage and support. Now, I too wished to protect him. I carefully recalled the details of Lu Tongshu from my past life, yet found only scattered fragments in my mind. In my memory, the legitimate sister never left the capital. She once complained to me about her husband being transferred to a remote post. She despised that place, finding it lacking the splendor of the capital, and refused to accompany him. Lu Tongshu had always been an incorruptible official. Even as Salt Commissioner, he could never satisfy the legitimate sister's craving for material wealth. During her most turbulent period, she frequently visited the marquis' residence. My sister had long sought a divorce from Lu Tongshu. The marquis, a noble of military merit, belonged to the crown prince's faction. These intricate relationships crisscrossed in my mind, gradually coalescing into a single tapestry. I lay awake all night. Early the next morning, clad in a deep crimson gown, I opened the gates of the Lu residence. The guards stationed at the gate raised their spears the moment they saw me. By order of the prefect, no one from the Lu household, all 1,000 souls, is permitted to enter or exit. The silver blades flashed with icy glints, sending shivers down my spine. Yet my expression betrayed no fear. According to the laws of our dynasty, anyone may plead their case in court after enduring 10 strokes of the cane. I am the wife of Lu Tongshu. I willingly endured 10 strokes of the cane to plead my husband's case. 1 stroke. 2 strokes. I bit down on my sleeve, forcing myself to remain silent. The punishment cane was thick and heavy. After 10 strokes, pain turned my face deathly pale, sweat pouring down my forehead like rain. The punishment was administered in full public view. Soon, the courtyard below the dais was packed with onlookers. Who stands below? The magistrate struck his gavel and questioned from his seat. He ordered the siege of Lu Manor and the arrest warrant for Lu Tongshu. He is the crown prince's man. Gritting my teeth against the pain, I rose. I am Lu Tongshu's wife. What brings you here? I come to plead my husband's innocence. I raised my head defiantly. My husband never betrayed the country. Absurd! The magistrate thundered. Lu Tongshu colluded with foreign enemies. The evidence is irrefutable. Then may I ask, Your Honor, what did my husband seek by betraying the country? Naturally, he sought wealth. Where is this wealth? I countered. No one answered. Having witnessed the Ho family's downfall in my previous life, I governed my household with extreme rigor. When the officials raided the Lu residence, they found not a single shred of evidence. Lu Tongshu had long praised my management methods, and I applied the same approach to the censorate. Though Lu Tongshu vanished, no one dared slander the second prince for treason. Fortunately, the second prince had prepared in time, and the censorate found nothing either. Why exactly did Lu Tongshu betray the country? This matter remains a mystery to this day. Even if no wealth was found for now, with letters between Lu Tongshu and the foreign tribes in hand, how could you possibly defend him? The prefect produced a letter and handed it to me. I scanned it and confirmed the handwriting was indeed Lu Tongshu's. So what? I ordered a clerk to bring paper and brush, then proceeded to copy the entire letter. The magistrate's clerk examined both letters closely for a long time. The handwriting was indeed indistinguishable. Your Honor. I raised my head and addressed the magistrate. Handwriting can be forged. Even a common woman with only a smattering of education can perfectly mimic her husband's handwriting. And yet, in our great nation brimming with talent, a single letter of unknown origin is enough to slander an incorruptible salt commissioner of treason? This is utterly preposterous. As I spoke, murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd below the dais. Indeed, Lu Tongshu has served in Fengtian for 2 years, punishing countless corrupt officials and winning the people's deep trust. Deep down, the common folk simply cannot believe Lu Tongshu would betray his country. The clamor grew so loud the magistrate was forced to bang his gavel once more. Bring in the witness. A man clad in prison garb was escorted into the courtroom. The accused, Lu Tongshu's deputy, declared Lu Tongshu colluded with Japanese pirates, smuggling goods for personal gain. I witnessed it with my own eyes, and was also coerced into participating in some activities. If you witnessed it firsthand, then may I ask when and where you witnessed it? I countered. The man stated the date and location, and upon hearing it, I laughed. During those days, Lu Tongshu was indeed absent from the city, but he was certainly not at the location the man described. After our marriage, whenever Lu Tongshu was away from home, he would write me a letter. 1 letter each day, without fail. The envelopes bore the postmaster's mark, indicating the exact date and location of dispatch. I have carefully preserved every single one of these letters, without exception. I presented these letters to everyone present. Those seated in the courtroom remained composed, but among the common folk below, voices immediately rose in protest. Lord Lu is innocent. Thus, all witness testimony and physical evidence were overturned, and the motive itself became suspect. At that moment, I saw the second prince enter the prefectural office accompanied by a middle-aged man. The prefect, upon seeing him, hastily vacated his seat of honor. The middle-aged man waved his hand, signaling him to sit back down. Regarding the case of Lu Tanshu's treason, this official finds the evidence insufficient and further investigation is warranted. He stated. With just these words, the prefect broke out in a cold sweat. The soldiers surrounding Lu's residence withdrew. Yet I dared not relax, keeping the doors tightly shut while recuperating. Only after returning home from the prefectural office that day did I discover my legs were swollen and bruised, completely numb. The physician said that had I not been rescued in time, my legs would have been ruined. One afternoon, I awoke from a nap to find a slender figure sitting by my bedside, staring intently at me. It was Lu Tongshu. After so many days apart, he had grown darker and thinner. Lu Tongshu gently touched my legs. It hurts, doesn't it? He asked softly. I shook my head. It doesn't hurt. Compared to the agony of swords piercing my heart in my past life, this was nothing. Lu Tongshu watched me for a long time, then suddenly leaned down and held me tightly. His embrace was so strong, it felt as if he wanted to press me into his very flesh. Wan, he said. It was the marquis's household who sent men to kill me. Lu Tongshu told me many things. Back then, the marquis and his stepmother committed adultery, causing the death of the old marquis. They thought their actions were concealed. Yet Uncle Lu discovered their secret. Uncle Lu gathered evidence in secret, only to be murdered by the 2 of them. Not content with that, they sent assassins to the countryside to murder his pregnant mother. Lu Tongshu, young and playful, stayed out all night. Unwittingly, this saved his life. After that day, Lu Tongshu threw himself into his studies. Upon reaching the capital, he began secretly searching for the murderers of his parents. Following the trail, He uncovered the marquis's household secrets. Whether in this life or the last. His feud with the marquis's household was one of no quarter given. His hatred for the marquis's household mirrored my own. Upon his return, Lu Tongshu swiftly cleared himself of the suspicion of treason. In the months that followed, he became a demon in the official circles of the two Hui regions, striking down gods and Buddhas alike. Later, the second prince and Lu Tongshu were honored by the emperor for their successful investigation into salt affairs after reporting back to the capital. Lu Tongshu was promoted, and my status rose accordingly. At the first banquet after returning to the capital, the third princess approached me to chat. Word has spread all over the capital. They say the wife of Minister Lu defended her husband's innocence at the prefectural office, leaving the governor speechless. Second brother also told me that if not for your actions directly clearing Lu Tongshu's name, their subsequent efforts wouldn't have proceeded so smoothly. Madame Gu, you are truly a heroine. The third princess showered me with praise. A heroine? I never imagined such a phrase would ever be used to describe me. In my past life, I was like withered weeds, sinking and perishing in the mud of the marquis's estate. But in this life, I am like pine and cypress under the rising sun, rooted in fertile soil, growing freely. A woman's growth requires fertile soil. Lu Tongshu is the most fertile soil imaginable for me. Second sister, you're truly radiant with confidence now. A mocking voice cut through the air. I turned my head and saw my long-lost legitimate younger sister. She still wore gold and silver, her attire opulent and luxurious. Yet for some reason, every inch of exposed skin was coated in lead white, making her look deathly pale. Looking closer, I saw her skin beneath the lead powder was covered in pimples. My voice faltered. Perhaps you should see a renowned physician. Your skin looks as if afflicted by some serious illness. Bye, sister. After a long silence, I finally heard her voice again. Second sister. Don't get too cocky. She gritted out. Everything you have now, you stole from me. I stole from her? Hearing my sister speak like this, I found it rather amusing. Had I not been reborn, I might even have felt a shred of pity for her. But after experiencing my past life, I could only think she brought this upon herself. After the banquet, I discreetly inquired and discovered rumors about the marquis's household were everywhere. These past years, my sister had stirred up a storm throughout the city. Rumors of the marquis's affair with his stepmother, the heir's debauchery and tyranny, the marquis's household treating lives as grass. One scandal after another, all made public knowledge by my elder sister. Her nature had always been arrogant and reckless, impulsive and heedless of consequences. She never considered how these actions would affect her. Listening to these rumors, I realized that in this lifetime, the marquis's downfall might come much sooner than I had imagined. In fact, Lu Tongshu and I might not even need to lift a finger ourselves. This lifetime, Lu Tongshu entered the Imperial Academy several years earlier than in the previous one. Meanwhile, I had become pregnant. Lu Tongshu was overjoyed, spending his days obsessively brainstorming names for the child, filling countless sheets of paper until they were worn out. I was happy too. Caressing my gently rounded belly, I quietly savored the joy of becoming a mother. This was my first child, both in this life and the last. No matter what, I would protect her. The political climate within the court was unpredictable. In this life, with Lu Tongshu's early rise to prominence, the struggle for the throne also arrived sooner. Late one night, I awoke with a start to find Lu Tongshu changing his clothes. What's happened? I asked urgently. Lu Tongshu's expression was grim. There's been an incident in the Eastern Palace. The second prince sent word, I must go immediately. Something significant will likely unfold in the capital tonight. Make sure the servants guard the doors and stay put. Lu Tongshu clasped my hand, giving me many instructions. Yet his worry remained unchecked. Go with peace of mind. I reassured him with a smile. Don't worry about me. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I was no longer the fragile, helpless Gu-won of my past existence. Yet, somehow, people still saw me that way. Less than an hour after Lu Tongshu left, flames lit up the capital sky. Soldiers roared and fought everywhere. Amidst the chaos, a band of bandits charged toward the Lu residence, intent on breaking in and killing. But I had already set a trap before the mansion. The 20-odd bandits found nothing, only to be captured by the Lu household servants. Who sent you here? I sat in the main hall, interrogating them from above. The bandits remained silent. I signaled the servants to apply gentle torture. Soon, the leader confessed. Yes, it was Lady Yen. Tonight, she was Lady Yen. Tomorrow, she would be a prisoner beneath the steps. The crown prince had raised an army in rebellion, and the marquis's household was implicated. If the rebellion succeeded, they would be credited as loyal followers. If it failed, they would be branded as traitors and rebels. The crown prince's rebellion failed. The emperor flew into a rage and ordered a thorough investigation. Thus, hundreds within the marquis's household faced execution or exile. The old case of the marquis and his stepmother plotting against the late marquis was reopened. Skeletal remains were unearthed from a dry well in the rear courtyard. All involved were sentenced to Ling Chi, slow dismemberment. The legitimate sister, who knew of the plot yet failed to report it and even instigated the crime, was also sentenced to execution. Before her death, I came to the dungeon to see her off. In the dark, damp dungeon, the legitimate sister had already descended into madness. I am Lady Lu. I am the true Lady Lu. Gu-won, you stole everything from me. You should be the one in this marquis's mansion suffering all this. You should be the one to die. I stood outside the door, silently watching my elder sister's deranged state. Even if I stood before her, she would no longer recognize me. The experiences and stark contrasts of this life and the previous one had shattered her mind. She couldn't comprehend how she had fallen to this end. My sister refuses to face her own mistakes, yet still blames everything on me. I sighed and turned to leave. Execution comes tomorrow. What more could I say to a dying madwoman? With the marquis's downfall, both daughters of my stepmother were the marquis's legitimate wives. Father was terrified. He hastily wrote a letter of divorce and sent my stepmother to the country estate that very night. Faced with the threat to his very life and fortune, he cared not a whit for the family's honor, reputation, or prestige. And so the marquis's household fell, while weeds overran my eldest sister's grave. I came to her tomb, told her of the marquis's household and the heir's fate, then turned and walked away without a backward glance. Meanwhile, Lu Tongshu's success in quelling the rebellion, coupled with the current chief minister Xie's retirement, made his next promotion seem imminent. Many families harbored ulterior motives, attempting to present concubines to Lu Tongshu only to be bluntly rebuffed. None match my wife's beauty. None rival her talent. None possess her courage. Sir, I suggest you refrain from such jests. Do you truly believe my taste is so poor? Which daughter wasn't raised in pampered luxury? Who would willingly endure such comparisons? Over time, no one dared offer themselves up for such humiliation. Late one night, I jolted awake from a dream to find Lu Tongshu holding me, his eyes moist. I dreamt you never married me, but went instead to the marquis's estate. In that dream, you died young there, and I fought desperately to avenge you. His voice was choked with sorrow. Tears welled in my own eyes. Yet my lips curved upward without my noticing. How childish, to be so shaken by a mere dream. I patted his head. Stop thinking about it. Go back to sleep. Indeed, Those unforgettable old matters had long since faded into nothingness with time. Like a dream. The end.